to 2024 Everett Transit Development Plan and the 2018 Annual Report. Before I open the public hearing, I'll ask staff to come forward to make a presentation. And my understanding, too, for this, and Sabina, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is we just accept the report. Council does not vote on this.
Correct.
Correct. So, okay. And so, Sabina, if I will now turn it over to you.
Just a second. Sorry. There it is. She showed me how to do this, but I lost it. Thank you for having me. I'm Sabina Araya with Everett Transit, and I am here to present the Transit Development Plan 2019-2024 and our 2018 Annual Report. This is a document that we provide to the state as a requirement on an annual basis, and we update both the annual report and our 5-year projection in terms of projects and our plans for the future every year because conditions change. And so the presentation highlights some of the information in the plan. The plan is available on our website. And I brought some paper copies as well as my business cards. So if there's any comments from the public that require a more in-depth discussion, I'm available after the meeting. And my email, by phone, however comments are received. I will start with the overview of the plan in terms of how it's organized. It outlines our organization, our structure within the City of Everett, our physical assets, our facilities, our fleet composition, our service characteristics. It then outlines our activities in 2018, which is what I'll go through right now, and then a 5-year projection in terms of capital expenditures and what we expect our service to be. In terms of service planning for 2018, it's been a busy couple years for transit. I've come before you with our Everett Transit Long Range Plan last year, and it was adopted in June. That was an 18-month long process that we started in 2017. The Long Range Plan is available online. We had a 3-phase approach, and the plan outlines a growth network that is ideal for the growth projected in our city. And that represents about a 25% increase in service hours from 2017 levels. In addition to the growth network, as part of our financial analysis for that plan, we discovered that the 2017 levels of service that we provided was unsustainable given our revenue stream. So as part of that long-range plan, we also had our consultants work on a sustainable option that we can move forward with and implementing in the short term. And we took that sustainable option and went and focused on sustainability of our service and our system. So there are many options that our consultant gave us in terms of revenue generating and cost saving alternatives that together help maintain as much service as we can in the City of Everett. So taking that approach, we offered a service restructuring proposal. So cutting service hours by about 7%, but at the same time increase the efficiency of our system overall. So we just don't cut trips, but we have routes work better together in providing service. In that proposal, we also increased frequency on some routes, and we cut some service on some routes. Also, Seaway Transit Center was open, and we wanted to make sure we planned for that transfer center, which is a very important new addition into our network. At the same time, we proposed a fare increase, which Council approved in a 2-stage process in 2019. So after our outreach in the summer and the fall, we came back to our customers and let them know a preview of our routes and our fare increase schedule. In terms of transportation demand management, which is also an area that transit has supported over the years, We have two sides to that. One was our community-based program called Everett in Motion that was put together due to a grant that we received, and the 2018 was the last year of that funding. Even though it's a small program, it does make a difference, and in 2018, 3.7 million non-drive alone miles were logged through that system. And so you see the carbon dioxide saved and the gallons of fuel we saved for those people that have taken advantage of the incentives to not drive alone. At the same time, we maintained the commute trip reduction program, which is a state requirement in working with employers and helping their employees not drive alone to their work sites. In terms of equipment and facilities, we replaced 4 fixed route buses with electric ones. You may remember we launched those buses in September of 2018. And we've been slowly working out all the technological issues that come with a new product. We also replaced 4 paratransit vans. We received competitive grants from the Department of Ecology that we will use to further replace our fleet with electric buses. And we purchased replacement shelters for our system. In terms of projects, we had started construction in 2018 on the North Broadway Transit Improvement Project, which added bus bulbs to the North Broadway corridor. That project is now finalized. It was done middle of 2019, and we are very pleased with how it's performing. The initial ask for this was not just improvement in reliability of service, but it was a safety issue of mirror strikes and accidents that were happening on this corridor that were significantly decreased as a result of this project. We had some work at the Everett Station. There was some water intrusion and brick restoration project, which was significant, and work was completed on that. And we're also working on the Everett Station Park and Ride expansion project, which will add 90 stalls to the south lot at Everett Station. Some statistics in terms of operations. We had 1.8 million passenger trips on our fixed route service, a 5.4% decrease from 2017. We had no changes in service hours in 2018. And overall, nationwide, transit ridership has been declining for 2018. So we're not outside of the trend on that one. Expenditures at $13.5 million. The SWIFT allocation for 2018 was $1.8 million. That's not part of the 13.5. And I added fuel consumed just as a metric from here on out. I just wanted to, as we introduce electric buses to the fleet, I think it'll be important to see those savings in gallons of fuel that we're not consuming. In terms of paratransit, we have 114,000 trips every year, last year, expenditures of $4.9 million. And a slightly decrease in fuel consumption due to less trips. We also own and manage Everett Station as a department, and we have revenues at 1.1 in 2018 and expenditures of 1.5 in maintaining and operating the Everett Station. Overall, Section 10 in the draft plan shows you a more detailed look at our operating revenues and expenditures and all of our capital projects. $25 million in operating revenues, expenditures at 30.2. However, the 6.3 million of that is what we transfer into capital for projects. So. Capital revenues, 10.6, and expenditures, 6.4 million. In terms of the 5 years from now on, 2019, 2024 projects, in terms of fleet, we have received already 3 more electric buses, which will be between the 3 and the 4 that we already have. You'll see them primarily on routes 7 and 6. In 2020 and 2022, because of the grant that we received from the Department of Ecology that we'll be using as local match for an additional 11 electric buses, those will be coming into our fleet. And we have 18 paratransit vans coming by the end of this year. And our needs further out in 2024 will depend on our funding. So we always are looking for grants or revenue sources to update our fleet, and we'll be doing that as we can afford to. In terms of service for the following, for the 2019-2024 period, as I mentioned, we restructured our service, we restructured our routes, and accomplished a 7% reduction in service hours. We increased fares in a two-step approach in January and July of this year. And we've implemented Orca Lift, which is an extension of the program that King County Metro already has and operates. Sound Transit and Community Transit are also participants. And we've started that in July of 2019. I have brochures for whoever's interested available as well. And for paratransit, we've also increased the fares in the same approach, January and July. Projects that are on the horizon are the new next generation Orca implementation. We are, as a region, upgrading the system, and it's a very tough lift and big effort on all of the agencies involved, but that includes all of our fare collection equipment on buses. We will be involved in the construction of the Everett Station Park and Ride expansion. We'll continue to do Everett Station preventative maintenance. We've done preliminary design and engineering and planning on doing that for our expansion operating base, and hope for construction of that in the future. We are also working to upgrade our technology on buses. The 3G to 4G upgrade is causing us to have to replace modems and our mobile data terminals on our paratransit fleet, and we hope to do that by the end of this year. Our onboard ITS system, which is our passenger counters and vehicle locators, is due for replacement. However, we don't quite have the funding to do that, so we'll be looking for funding, and we'll be trying to fit in that as well as our revenues allow. I know that's a quick look through. Yes.
Very good. Okay. First, Councilmember Bogley.
Updating the fleet. I know we're getting electric buses. That's very exciting. Are there any grants available, or are you considering electric vans for paratransit? Just basically all the vehicles turning electric.
It's on our radar. I don't think the technology is yet there. There's no real good options in terms of vans. And the state just now, most of our procurement goes through the state contract. I haven't seen any in this round.
Thank you.
Councilmember Murphy.
Thanks, President Bader. Comment and a question. First comment, just want to thank you for including the fuel data. It's nice to see the reduced fuel consumption as a result of the electric buses, and so it'll be interesting to watch that moving forward. The question, though, on the paratransit, you mentioned the passenger trips were down 6.7%, fuel consumption was down, and yet expenses were up 7.4%, so it seems a little inconsistent with ridership down, fuel down, but yet the expenses are still up substantially. So what is driving that?
Part of that is also the length of the trips that are done. It may be less trips, but farther out, because the fuel consumption is not at the same percentage lower. And part of that is also how we allocate costs for supplies in terms of paratransit. Paratransit and fixed route are co-located in the same operations center, and so costs are divided between the two. And for a more in-depth detail, I can look further and let you know.
I would just add that staff is our biggest driver of expense, and so contracts get renewed. Cost of personnel always goes up every year, regardless of, of other revenues that are coming in or not. So
yeah, we have shortage of drivers in that area in the paratransit, so we've had a lot of overtime
Oh,
as
okay.
well.
Well, that could be part of it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, before I come back to Councilmember Vogely, I think Councilmember Roberts had a question.
Well, just first, thank you, Sabina, and it's exciting to see the commitment to sustainability in what we're doing, and so that is exciting indeed. I know, and this is not fair to ask it when you're here because it was under Paul Kaftansky's presentation on much the same topics, but I know that we have asked, so I hope we will see some ridership data that starts to break down that ridership, and we also wanted to see, or I know I wanted to see, I think others too, the ridership data as it relates to the SWIFT service versus others. So we can sort of see not only the numbers, but where they are within the system.
I know Community Transit has boardings and alightings information for all the stops within the City of Everett, and I've looked at that data before, so I know it's there. We could get you that. And boardings and alightings or ridership information for our service, I have it readily available, so I'll be happy to send you that.
Right, I know Paul's here, and I know you're working on that, so I'm not, my comment isn't a complaint. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that I know that's coming, and we look forward to seeing that and seeing it in whatever form you have it in.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
I think some of that data actually was well shared at TAC, so maybe even just forwarding that presentation or whatever you shared at TAC, I think there was some
Okay.
of that in there as well. So, anybody else other than Councilmember Vogely? Okay, back to you, Councilmember Vogely.
This is, thank you, since I forget to say that sometimes. When it comes to the equipment replacement and having to put things on the buses, I'm just curious, and this is kind of just an open question, might it be cheaper or less equipment to, instead of putting it on every bus, putting them at stops like the SWIFT has? So that's not really part of this discussion, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to put it out there, not knowing how infrastructure works.
Yeah,
not my
we've-
forte.
I don't know that it answers that question exactly, but we have looked, for example, at the North Broadway Transit Improvement Project at adding lights in ground and connected at all the shelters, and that was about $1 million lift. Infrastructure that involves construction is always more expensive than an equipment on the bus. And so it makes boarding on SWIFT stations very fast, but with 500 stops in our system, that would, I think, be cost prohibitive.
Any
Thank
other-
you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Any other council comments or questions? Just one, the fact that you mentioned modem installation should not lead me to believe that there's going to be Wi-Fi on the buses. Is that correct?
No,
Okay,
it's
thank you.
it's the Wi-Fi we use to have our APCs and everything else communicate with
Gotcha.
our system.
Okay, great. Well, thanks very much, Sabina. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank
Okay,
you.
so now we'll open the public hearing for this, and I already have two people signed up to make public comment. And so first I would call forward Pam Kepford.
I'm Pam Kepford, and I live at 5621 Rockefeller here in Everett. I love transit. You know, unfortunately, I commute back and forth to Seattle more than I actually commute around Everett. I echo Liz Vogeley's question about paratransit vehicles, and as the technology in the automotive industry expands, and particularly with California, you know, cooperating, I'm hoping that we can get electric vans before the end of the budget here. But maybe not. I did notice on the budget that diesel fuel consumption is cut almost in half, but further down the line, gasoline and diesel fuel consumed is up a bit, from 119,000 to 126,000. I'm surprised about that. I thought it wasn't just the buses, but maybe other service vehicles that were trying to go electric. I also see you have other hybrid vehicles and some Prius vehicles, and I would encourage replacement into that family of vehicles as the opportunities arise. The other thing I have to say is sort of more of this general woo-hoo climate stuff. We all know that the Everett Transit Center down at the train station is going to grow, and I see you have millions of dollars here for improvement. We're talking about adding apparently 90 more parking spaces. I think one of the problems we have with mass transit like light rail is they tend to build park and ride lots all around the stations really, and those are the places where homes need to be. You know, I don't know how you solve that problem, but I go down to Seattle, you know, frequently, and Montlake Terrace has a big parking structure, you know, and I'm hoping somewhere down the line, somebody has their act together to realize that around the Everett train station, there maybe could be parking structures as part of that whole area renewal to allow more people projects rather than car projects, you know, within the range, walking range of the train station. So that's kind of one of those long-term things I just like to put out there, because you're spending millions of dollars already on improving the train station area, and we might want to look at stacking up those cars instead of spreading them all over the landscape. And so, I love transit. I love what you're doing. Thank you very much. All right.
Great. There, thanks very much, Pam. Our next public comment is Joe Kunstler.
Can you please reset my time, because it doesn't look right? Thank you. And I definitely want to second the comments I just heard. However, I'm here on somewhat different matters. I first want to stress to the City Council that I'm a regional transit advocate, and I'm not trying to tell Everett how to run its business, but looking at the Transit Development Plan in Section X, at your ending balance for 2018 is $4.2 million. You project by 2024 to end at $618,000. You've got a structural deficit problem here, and you really need to go to the voters and ask them to start funding this agency. It is worth funding. There are other municipalities that would be jealous to have its own transit, its own directly elected board, and to really have the ability to control its own future. So that's my first comment, is please ask your voters to raise your sales tax to 0.9%, because we really need to get things funded. The second comment I have is there's been this ongoing issue, and part of the problem is this particular facility is like in the dead man's land between community transit and Everett Transit. And as Sabina has heard for years, I would say back to 2014, the future of flight has needed transit service, and it sits between the Washington State Ferries multimodal terminal and the brand new transit center at the north of Payne Field, Seaway Transit Center. I would highly counsel you to direct staff to negotiate with the state ferry system, community transit, and Boeing, which now owns and operates 100% of the future of flight, to come up with some kind of funding package to make the Route 70 run at least hourly during the day to connect the state ferries to the Seaway Transit Center, and from there you can go to Everett. You can go to the Paynefield Terminal. You can go to Everett. You can go on the Swift Green Line, and I really, really counsel you guys to get that fixed, because that's something that should have been, you know. But the problem is again, goes back to point number one: funding. So you guys need to go to voters, level with them, tell them if you want a transit system that works, it's going to cost you. And if you do want a system that's just creeping along and bleeding good transit talent, for God's sakes, vote no. But I'm asking everyone to vote yes. I have 18 seconds left, and a certain Sabina is probably breathing a sigh of relief, because I only have 14 seconds to tell you all that it has been a great privilege and honor to work with Sabina since at least 2014 on these transit issues, and I've really enjoyed my conversations with her, and I hope you guys are able to keep her around, but my time has expired. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other one who would like to make public comment on this item number 11? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close?
I would move to close public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Murphy?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore?
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Vice President Tui?
Yes.
President Bader?
Yes, as mentioned earlier, we don't vote to approve this, we accept it, so thanks Sabina and Transit for presenting this to us.
So, Mr. President, just a couple of comments, if I may, because it's not a motion.
go for it.
But sort of following up on some comments that were made. First of all, with respect to the vehicles that work for paratransit to go electric, they don't exist at this point. I mean, no one's making them, though they may well come into being soon. We make electric buses, we make electric cars, but it was, the a reference to California was made, and that's a good point, because California has a zero-emission vehicle standard. And what that means is that the entire fleet of all vehicles sold in the state of California have to meet a certain mileage target. And by doing that, it generates and opens up the door on the marketplace for other electrical vehicles. We did not get that accomplished in this last legislature. I hope it will be accomplished, but if it is, it helps incentivize and brings new vehicles on the market, new electric vehicles, and new fuel efficiencies. And hopefully the manufacturers will be making these kinds of vehicles very soon, because they're tooling up all across the world to build these vehicles. Secondly, the question of park and rides versus transit-oriented development. That is a sort of in a way, I don't know if it's a healthy tension, but it certainly is a tension, because if you are at the end of the transit system, as we are the northern terminus of the Sound Transit taxing district. For now, that means that people come into our community to get on the system. So I have been raising the issue that we need to start looking at building financial bridges across those lines, to start looking at how we can provide transit and integrated systems to meet the rest of that service. And the mayor and this council supported, and the mayor did write a letter, because the I-5 corridor study is looking at Mount Vernon, or in other words, Skagit County to Thurston County, and that is a better structural look in terms of meeting the region's needs. So I just want to put that on the record. It is not directly, but it is related to this transit plan, but it is indirectly related, and this transit plan is something that the Department of Transportation requires. So I just put that out there to inform our legislative program that will doubtless be coming to us sometime in the fall.
Good. Thank you. Any other council comments about this item? Councilmember Vogely.
Without the eloquence of my council member Roberts, just putting out there also housing and transit. You can't talk about one without the other. And so I'm very grateful that Ms. Kepford brought up, housing around these stations. And we're doing the rethink zoning and all of the wonderful land use codes, housing, everything. Just want to keep putting it on everybody's minds that we're gotta work together to get these issues taken care of. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other council comments? All right, seeing none, and we're going to move on to our briefing agenda. These